Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carter Walker. I love talking about movies, music, comics, and games, as evidenced by my shirt, my background. And today I just wanted to go over my ranking of the Indiana Jones films, all 5 of them, from Raiders of the Lost Ark to the recently released Dial of Destiny. Before we get started, I love the Indiana Jones franchise. I love the character of Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford gives one of my favorite performances of all time as Dr. Henry Jones Jr., and I think that he just knocks it out of the park. No matter what movie I'm watching with Indiana Jones in it, whether it's my favorite or my least favorite, I still think that Harrison Ford does a great job. And I still find things to like about the movies. So even though my ranking might not be what yours is, feel free to share it down below in the comment section. Let's get some debate going, some conversation about the Indiana Jones movies. Coming in at number 5, I feel like there's really only 2 choices for most people, and my number 5 is going to be Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So ever since I was young, I really just haven't been too fond of this movie. I watched it when I was super young, probably about 10, and I rented it from my local library. I watched it and I really just didn't enjoy it. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't feel like a mainline classic indie adventure. Whether that's just the fact that Harrison Ford is a lot older, even though he is in Dial of Destiny, it just feels off. Something about this movie just feels weird. Maybe it's that George Lucas had this outlandish idea to do a full sci-fi alien invasion flick. I don't know why I can't pronounce invasion. Alien invasion flick starring Indiana Jones, and just go full wild with it. And Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg were like, dude, that's a terrible idea. Please don't do that. But something about this movie, it always has just felt weird to me. The plot, I think, is just pretty weak, with the skull going back and forth, and then everything with Ox. Everything with, gosh, I can't even remember his name. The side character, Mac. Yeah, everything with Mac is just weird. Like, he's so flippant. And I know that, like, part of the crux, one of the mainline things in Indiana Jones movies is just betrayal and, like, friends turning on him. But it just happened, like, it just kind of happens so much that it loses its significance, it loses its meaning. And the CGI in this really took me out of it. I just hate all the little things in this movie. I mean, it's so classic for people to be like, they nuked the fridge, it's stupid, the gophers are stupid, the aliens are stupid, the ending is stupid, the mutt and the vines is stupid. And honestly, I think they're right. I just don't enjoy this movie as much as I used to. Even when I saw it when I was a kid, I really wasn't too big of a fan of it. And rewatching it now lately, I'm like, yeah, it's one Indiana Jones movie that for me just feels like kind of a chore to get through. If you're a fan of this movie, then by all means, I mean, hats off for you for liking the movie. I think there's a lot of great things. Like, Harrison Ford is great in it. I do love the reintroduction of Marion. And I like the idea of Indy and Marion having a son. And I just love the happy ending it gives for Indy. The ending of this movie where he and Marion get married and he just, walks off into the sunset with her and has Mutt. A really great ending for Indiana Jones. I think he's someone who deserves to be happy in his life. I just think some of the stuff in here is weak. The action is pretty hit and miss. There's some great stuff, some bad stuff. I do like how, like, graphic it is still, like the ants eating people. I always thought that was scary. I don't really like ants, but I like that. I always kind of like that. And real quick, before I get into that, there might be a little bit of like a clicking noise in the background of this video, like very quietly, some static. That's just because the way that my apartment is set up, there's not a ton of room for me to film, and the only place that's any remotely movie related is in here. My microphone has to go like really close to my TV because there's like no desk or anything. It's just our entertainment center. And so I'm going to talk pretty loud to try and drown out the noise of that like static clicking. So I apologize if you hear that in the video. Usually I put music, not very like noticeable unless you're very much listening to it, so then you'll hear it. Coming in at number 4, we have kind of a tie, but my number 4 right now is going to be The Dial of Destiny, the most recent release. I've only seen it once. I am seeing it tomorrow, maybe today. I don't know when this video is going to go live, but I liked the movie overall. I don't think it's as bad as people on the internet are making it out to be. And I don't think it's as good as people on the internet are making it out to be. Pretty normal for the internet. People are completely doing away with nuance and just focusing on either it's the greatest movie ever made or the worst movie ever made. There's only a few people really that have been like, yeah, it's great, it's got a lot of issues, I enjoyed it, or it's bad, it has a lot of issues, I didn't enjoy it, however, there are some things that I liked about it. I do think that it's a movie where there's a lot of good and a lot of bad, and some things that I really just don't understand. I'm happy that Harrison Ford, wanted to come back and have his last movie as Indiana Jones. not be Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, because I enjoy this more than Crystal Skull. I do think there's a lot of kind of some weird stuff in here with just what they do with Indy, kind of the deconstruction of his character. But also, at the same time, there's things that I really love, like the fact that it's set in 1969. We have the moon landings. Everyone's just looking to the future, and he feels like a relic left behind. And what happens when something like that occurs? And I thought that was really cool. Maybe it wasn't focused on enough. Kind of going throughout the movie, I would have enjoyed a little bit more dialogue, a little bit more nuance to Indy's character, but I still liked it. I think the action overall might be some of the weakest of the trilogy. No, wow, not the trilogy. Some of the weakest of the franchise. Just because Harrison Ford is 80, he can't do anything that he used to do when he was 40. Can't do anything he used to do even when Crystal Skull released. So there's just a lot of limitations here for him. I also think that Helena, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character that has been garnering a lot of controversy on the internet, isn't that great of a character. She's just a little mean and disrespectful to Indy, which is how she's supposed to be written. But when you introduce someone like that and have them talk down to someone that has been the lead face of a very, very well-received franchise for the last 40 some odd years, controversy's going to come. That's just how it goes. People aren't going to like her character. I enjoyed it. I walked out of the movie kind of laughing at the third act, like twist, big, like, just choice that they make that is just so bombastic and out there that I ended up really liking it. Maybe just had Mutt in there or a Short Round. I would have liked to see either one of those characters come back, but unfortunately, such is the time we live in. Maybe it's just me and nostalgia. Who knows? But overall, for Dial of Destiny, it's a movie that I think is good, has a lot of flaws, and honestly, it's the movie that could go way up or way down in my ranking. Maybe not way up, but it could go up a spot or down a spot. And coming in at number 3, just kind of barely edging out Dial of Destiny, is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And I am one of those people that does not like this movie that very much. All that being said, I'm a huge horror fan, and I love like movies with darker tones or that like go way out with the ratings and the boundaries. For some reason, Temple of Doom just doesn't do it for me. It is very different from Raiders and Last Crusade, 2 movies that I prefer. Obviously, you haven't seen them on here. But it's just weird to a point that, I don't know, man. I've never really been able to get behind this movie, and I wish that I could, because I adore the original trilogy apart from this movie a little bit. There's things about this movie that I love. I love the darker tone. I love the torture and the body horror. I love the setting where Indiana Jones is just in full adventure mode. I love how he's a little bit more rough and ragged because it's before Raiders. I love Short Round. I love the ending, and the action is phenomenal. However, everything kind of leading up, everything past the dance number, leading up to that last little bit, really just bores me. I don't know what it is, but I rewatched this with my roommate a while ago, well, my old roommate, and it just didn't hit for me. I don't know what it is, and it honestly bummed me out. There's a few movies in my life that I really wish worked for me, and every time I watch them, I don't know what it is, but it just bums me out a little bit. And Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is one of them. So this is a movie that I really wish I liked more. For some reason, it just doesn't work as well as it should. I do really dislike Willie as a character, and I do think that she drags the movie down a ton, and I don't know if it's Kate Capshaw, I don't know if it's Steven Spielberg, I don't know if it's George Lucas, or if it's just all 3 of them. Just, sometimes you have great ideas, sometimes you don't, sometimes you perform, sometimes you don't. I'm not sure what went wrong here, but I don't know what it is. So honestly, Temple of Doom could go below Dial of Destiny. However, I love the ending. The minecart chase is thrilling. The fight on like the stone turner where the dude gets crushed is so good. And then probably one of my favorite action sequences and lines of all time is when he's on the bridge and he's like, Mala Ram, prepare to meet Kali in hell. And he like chops it. That was so cringe, but I'll probably just leave that in. But it's like so cool. It just feels... Harrison Ford just delivers, man. It's so good. Harrison Ford is the man, and I just adore that part of the movie. It's so awesome. Like, it gives me goosebumps every time, and I just love the way that Harrison Ford plays Indiana Jones in the very end of the movie, and I love how, like, graphic it gets, and yeah, I think that Temple of Doom, man, that ending is so good, but everything else leading up to it just doesn't really work for me, which, again, like I mentioned, it just bums me out. So that's why it's number 3. Full disclosure, these top 2 really could be interchangeable. I have just loved these 2 movies for the longest time. Ever since I was a little kid, I watched the movies and I played the Lego Indiana Jones adventure game. I had the Lego sets, like the super old one. I've just loved Indiana Jones for as long as I can remember. And seeing these two movies again and watching them, like, as I've gotten older, starting to appreciate them more, and as I'm studying film, really just stuck out to me as two of the greatest movies of all time. Two of the most influential movies to me personally, and maybe I believe to other filmmakers and to like Hollywood overall. Just something that has shaped so many people's lives and their likes and their interests that it's almost unfair to compare them to each other and unfair to compare them to other movies in the franchise because they're just so good. But I'm going to try my best. So coming in at number 2, this is going to break my heart, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. For the longest time, I was a Last Crusade believer, man, and I still am. But I was like, Last Crusade is so much better than Raiders. It is the best Indiana Jones film. It is the best adventure film. And then I rewatched Raiders and Last Crusade a few months ago with my roommate before Dial of Destiny, and both of us were just like, dang, dude, Last Crusade is so good, but I think Raiders might just be a little bit better. And I think that they both do very different things very, very well. I think Last Crusade does the relationship and the humor of Indiana Jones and his father just so well. Sean Connery as Henry Jones Sr. just absolutely nails the role, and I can't even say how much I love this movie because it's just so good and has one of my favorite sequences in movie history, if not like top 3, where at the very end, Elsa drops the Grail and she falls to her death, and then Indy sees the Grail, and all he's thinking about is just how much his father has obsessed over this over the course of his life, going from that intro where he's focusing on the Grail instead of Indy, and he's just focusing on the Grail this entire time, and Indy doesn't feel that love from Henry, and he just knows that he needs, if he can get the Grail, if he just gets the Grail, Henry will love him, Henry will accept him, he'll have time for him, and all these different things going through Indiana Jones's head in that moment. And he goes to reach for it, and Henry grabs him, and he's like, let it go, Indiana. It's the only time he calls him Indiana instead of Junior in the entire movie, and it's like the most obvious thing, you know. It's not a secret that this has happened. I'm not blowing anyone's mind, but it just the sequence of him saying like, let it go, Indiana, and Indy realizing that his father like does care for him, and like his father loves him no matter what, and he doesn't need him to get the Grail to love him. He doesn't need the show of approval. Dude, it like chokes me up every time, and it sounds so corny, and it sounds so like not lame, but just so surface level, but it works, and it works for a reason, just because they are written so well. Indiana Jones is just written incredibly well throughout the franchise, so likable. Harrison Ford is just such a great performer, and then Sean Connery just comes and kills it as Henry Jones Sr., and I just think the movie is just all the better for that. If there was no Henry Jones Sr. and it was just another Raiders-esque movie, Raiders would top this movie easy and it wouldn't be as good. But they just added in that little emotional staple of Indiana Jones, and they just added in Henry Jones Sr. and just made it very emotional. And I think the movie picks up considerably when Henry Sr. gets introduced. As much as I love the first like half, maybe first third of the movie, it is after the flashback, it is a little slower until Henry Sr. gets introduced. However, there is no shortage of exciting chases, awesome puzzles. I love the library puzzle, and they they have to break in. I just remember in the Lego game, you like drop the chandelier in, and I was just like, wow, that's crazy. I can't believe they do this in the movie. And then I watched the movie, I was like, wait a minute, what are they talking about? But I can't even express my love for Last Crusade. It's just so good. I mean, for every reason that everyone has praised it for the last 30 years. Everyone knows why this movie is incredible. There's no shortage of positive reviews, reports. I mean, famous people talking about how influential it is to filmmaking as a whole. It's just that good, and I love it. But coming in at number 1, we have Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is the perfect adventure movie, honestly, like the quintessential adventure movie, one of the best action movies ever made, and in my opinion, one of the greatest movies ever made in general. It's so good at doing that simple adventure thing and just focusing on it. Raiders works because it's a straightforward adventure story with Indiana Jones, who's a bit of a scoundrel, a bit of a James Bond like playboy type, and he's an archaeological professor, and he goes like kind of hunting for fame and glory, but also wants to like help out Marcus in the museum. But as he goes on throughout this movie, you kind of get a little bit more backstory for him, a little bit more history, and find out that, wow, he does a lot of things that like aren't really that great. He's not the best person. But he's just so likable because Harrison Ford just kills it. The little one-liners, the smirks, the facial expressions, the fear that he has, like the confidence, the smugness. I could go on, like, name every expression in the book. Harrison Ford nails it in this movie. This movie is just, it's as good as everyone says. It's one of those movies where even if you got, like, one of my friends or someone that I know that wasn't a big movie fan, that wasn't a big, like, Indiana Jones fan, didn't like this movie, even they could admit, if they knew a little bit about, like, history, like Hollywood history, movie history, how, like, freaking influential and how great this movie is. This is a movie where even if it's not your type of movie, you have to admit, like, it's just that good. And I don't say that about a lot of movies, because I know that some of the movies that I like, they're great for me, but they're not great for everyone else. This is a movie where it's like, yeah, this is just a classic. Like, there's really not much you can say about this movie that's bad. I mean, maybe it is a little, no, I don't know. I can't even think of anything right now. It's just so good. I love Raiders, man. It's just so good. It's so violent. It's got that edge, that bite to it, even though it's PG. And it's got that scoundrel of Harrison Ford in it. He just plays like that scoundrel so well. And the supporting characters like Sala and Marcus and Marion are so good. And the Nazis are great as well. Like Bellum is just such a... Is that his name? Belloc. How could... Sorry, Daisy. I scared the dog. Belloc is so good in here. He's just so despicable. And the ending, when I was like 6 when I watched this for the first time. My dad is like, I love Raiders, one of the best movies ever made. Let's watch it. And I was like, okay, Mom's gone for the weekend. Me, my brother, who was like 10 at the time, and my sister, who was probably like 4, she's probably asleep, put on the movie. And my dad was like, okay, well, you should probably turn around for this part. And they opened up the Ark of the Covenant, and the TV was playing back here, and there was a little like glass picture right here, and the frame was reflecting. And I looked in the glass picture because I was turned around, and I just see this dude's face melt, and it haunted me for so long. I was like terrified. But now watching it, I'm like, this is so cool. Like, they did such a great job with the effects. It holds up so well. And I just get so like giddy and excited talking about this movie because it's just so good. Like, I don't know if anyone can come even close to this, and no one has lately. I mean, I think the only thing that comes remotely close to this is Last Crusade, and it's made by the same people, and then they made Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and couldn't quite nail it. I just think this movie is phenomenal. Everything that could have been said about this movie has been said before. The score, oh my gosh, the score for all these movies is incredible. How did I forget that? The action set pieces, they're real, they're visceral, done by actual people on location. And I don't know, there's not much else I can say about Raiders that hasn't been said before. The praises have been sung for all the right reasons. It's an incredible movie. If you haven't seen Raiders, go check it out. Please, I will beg you to see it. Check out Raiders and Last Crusade. Like I said, guys, these movies are almost perfect for me. Actually, they are perfect. No, Raiders and Last Crusade are perfect. A lot of these movies are interchangeable. The only thing that's really set in stone is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull on the bottom. I think the middle two are kind of interchangeable, and the top two are interchangeable. But overall, guys, thanks for watching. That was my ranking of the Indiana Jones movies. What's your ranking? Put them down below. You probably think I'm crazy for having Dial of Destiny up, you know, at 4th. I've heard a lot of controversy about that movie. Do you think Raiders or Crusade is better? Let me know. As always, thank you so much for the support on my channel. It means a ton to me, honestly. Onwards and upwards. As always, I'm Carter. Have a great rest of your day.